All right, welcome back. Today we're continuing our review of our third BCBA practice exam with the next set of questions. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and most importantly, subscribe. If you're looking for our 3 practice exams, our task list study guide, or our famous combo pack, check out bcbastudy.com where you can find all of our materials. Questions, comments, let us know. As always, work hard, study hard. Let's get right to the questions. Question 1. Elliot is a doctor at Sacred Heart Hospital. She has low self-confidence despite her effectiveness as a practitioner. Her supervisor recommends that Elliot take data on her outcomes to establish a record of her successes. Elliot's supervisor is suggesting what? All right. You have to know about self-monitoring, self-management, self-instruction for the exam. One of the best ways for our clients to learn to generalize and to succeed later on in life as reinforcement aids, contrived reinforcement, is to self-manage. In this case, Elliot's supervisor is suggesting a type of self-management to Elliot. Now, what type of self-management is the supervisor suggesting? Well, as always, we do all of our work up front. The answer to the question is typically in the question. All the information is there. You just have to understand it. So what do we know? We know Elliot is a doctor. We know she has low self-confidence despite being effective. So our supervisor recommends Elliot take data on her outcomes to establish a record of her successes. That's the key. Elliot is taking data. She's not evaluating the data. She's not instructing herself on the data. She's simply taking the data. So what is Elliot's supervisor suggesting you do? A, self-monitor. Yes. All the supervisor is saying is monitor yourself, right? During your procedures, during your treatments, just take data on outcomes. What you should see, ideally, is all your successes. I'm not asking you to evaluate. I'm not sitting here telling you to instruct yourself. Just monitor what you're doing. If we look at self-instruction, this should be Elliot maybe talking herself through procedures, talking herself through treatments. Self-evaluation, Elliot would be actually looking at her own performance compared to others and evaluating against them. And then self-control is somewhat of a misnomer, don't forget, but Elliot's not looking to change her own behavior right now. Okay, all she's doing is trying to monitor her behavior. She needs to monitor her successes and her outcomes based on her supervisor's recommendation because of this idea of self-confidence. Now, if you are savvy, you might say, well, low self-confidence, we wouldn't use that as a behavior. Maybe not, but Elliot's in the medical field. Her supervisor probably isn't a BCBA. We're worried about how this looks from a behavior analytic standpoint. You always need to approach questions from a behavior analytic standpoint, first and foremost. What we're looking at is Elliot taking data on her outcomes, in other words, self-monitoring. Temporal extent consists of what? Okay? All of our measurements are derived from 3 things: extent, temporal locus, repeatability. Each measurement falls into one of these categories. Temporal extent is pretty simple. If you think of the word extent, you think of length, right? Length of time. So is latency part of temporal extent? It is not. Latency is part of temporal locus. What about latency and IRT? Well, no, you can eliminate it because of latency, but IRT is also part of temporal locus, or derived from temporal locus, I should say, not temporal extent. C, latency, IRT, duration. You can eliminate that because latency and IRT are not part of temporal extent. The only measurement we're looking at here that is part of temporal extent is duration. Fairly simple, straightforward question. Not every question in the exam is going to knock your socks off. When you get easy questions, what is our strategy? Trust our preparation, read the question, understand it, pick the best answer, be confident. Okay. There are easy questions on the exam, right? Long exam, there's a lot of questions, but there are some easy ones. Take advantage of the easy ones, like this one. Next question. For 6 months, you used the same vending machine on your college campus until one day when the vending machine broke and was never repaired. Now, occasionally, you will walk by the vending machine and attempt to put money in just to see if it works. This is known as what? All right, I would say this is maybe a 5 on the difficulty scale. Okay, pretty easy if at first glance you know exactly what they're talking about. but very easy to get caught in the details, right? So let's break it down. Question is asking about, obviously, your behavior. Your behavior of what? Well, walking by the vending machine and attempting to put money in just to see if it works. Always identify first what we're looking at. Now, why are you doing that? Why are you occasionally walking by this vending machine and attempting to put money in just to see if it works when you know the vending machine was broke, was never repaired? Well, what happened to your behavior? You used to use the same vending machine on the campus, and then one day it broke, wasn't repaired. So every time you tried to use it, what would happen? You wouldn't get reinforcement, right? You used to be able to put money in, reinforcement comes out, behavior continues. That time, put money in, nothing comes out, behavior's on extinction. Simply put, your behavior was put on extinction. So when a behavior is put on extinction, but occasionally reappears, what do we call that? A, an extinction burst. An extinction burst happens when extinction first starts, right? What happens? Behavior temporarily increases before decreasing again, but it happens as extinction is starting. Okay, this is after it's over, right? Occasionally, you're walking by this vending machine. Okay. B, spontaneous recovery. Yes, an extinguished behavior that occasionally reappears is known as the effect of spontaneous recovery. What do we do with spontaneous recovery? We just continue implementing the same extinction procedure. What's going to happen? Even if you walk by and attempt to put money in just to see if it works, it's not going to. Your behavior is still being put on extinction, so it might be a few weeks, a few months before you try again. But this is known as spontaneous recovery. C, extinction. Well, originally, your behavior was put on extinction, right? But we're not talking about that. We're talking about walking by the vending machine and attempting to put money in. Why it's so important to know exactly what the question is asking you about. Okay. And then D, resistance to punishment. There's no punishment going on. Extinction and punishment, not the same thing. Very important to remember. Can't be resistance to punishment. There is no punishment. Your behavior is put in extinction. It went away. Suddenly recovers, suddenly reappears. We consider it spontaneous recovery. You're going to use errorless teaching. What type of prompt will be most effective at first? All right. When we get a term, what do? We define it. Let's define errorless teaching. Exactly what it sounds like, right? We're teaching with the intent of not allowing mistakes, because research shows errors lead to more errors, And as you're learning and making errors, those errors are becoming part of the behavior chain. We'll avoid that. So we use techniques like errorless teaching to help learners learn without errors. And when we say errorless, we mean errorless. Just like extinction, we want 100% of the time. Errorless teaching, we want 100% of the time, no errors. Okay, so whatever it takes, prompting-wise, to get errorless teaching or to prevent errors is what we want. So in that case, what type of prompt is going to be most effective? A stimulus prompt. Let's say I make the stimulus bigger on the field of 5. Could the client still make a mistake? Sure. The stimulus is more present. It's bigger. Maybe the magnitude has changed, but an error can still occur, right? So a stimulus prompt alone might not be the best way to really do errorless teaching. What about B, a full physical prompt? Yes. With a full physical, you can prevent errors, right? Because you're hand over handing. You're essentially doing the response for them, okay, with physical guidance. A full physical prompt would be the most effective at first. Do you always need a full physical for errorless? Always. It's kid specific. But the question is asking about what would be the most effective, without a doubt, a full physical prompt. A partial physical is just a less intrusive version of full physical. And then a verbal prompt, way, way, way prone to errors, right? A verbal prompt. Yeah, you see it all the time, prompting verbally, and they just keep thing. A full physical, if you're looking for the most effective one at first, is always going to be the go-to for errorless teaching. Technicians who implement treatment, teachers who practice behaviorism, and parents who use behavior analytic techniques are demonstrating what? You need to know the different types of behaviorisms, okay? The different concentrations, different avenues, whatever you want to call them, we have to know them, Okay, so we have experimental analysis of behavior, EAB, Skinner. Applied behavior analysis, ABA, what we do. Practice guided by behavior analysis, what our technicians do. And then precision teaching, which is just a type of teaching, not necessarily a concentration of behaviorism. Okay, so we can eliminate precision teaching off the bat. So with that being said, we're looking at technicians, teachers, and parents, all who are implementing these behavior analytic techniques. So they're actually taking our science, our research, and implementing them. Okay. Experimental analysis of behavior is what? Well, think of Skinner working in a lab, working with rats, working with the Skinner box. That's experimental analysis of behavior, working in very controlled environments, typically with animals, analyzing behavior. Applied behavior analysis, ABA, it's what we do. Okay. We are doing research in the field with humans. Once we have that research, what do? We give it to technicians and teachers and parents and practitioners, and they go out and apply it. Okay. And we do that by implementing treatment in practice. So practice guided by behavior analysis is what they're doing. Remember, applied behavior analysis is just our research on humans, right? We're going to then take our behavior analysis findings and put it into practice, hence practice guided by behavior analysis. Understand the difference between these three, okay? Very important. We also have conceptual behavior analysis, okay? Or we're just thinking about theories of behavior, okay? Well, you have to know the difference between all of these, right? They're on the study guide. Now that you're a BCBA, you'll start supervising RBTs. At the onset of supervision, what must you do? Okay, supervision starts, right? Do you have to supervise RBTs? They don't have to be under your name on a website, on the board website if you don't want it, but you will be training RBTs and you will be essentially supervising RBTs, okay? So at the onset of the supervision, what do? A, request feedback from the RBT. Well, supervision hasn't started yet. There's probably not any feedback to give. B, train the RBT on proper assessment procedures. Well, every RBT is different. Maybe you get the RBT who is a pro at assessment procedures and they need training on something else. You can't use a one-size-fits-all model, right? What you can do is C, establish expectations for the RBT. Hi, I'm your new BCBA, so-and-so. I expect you to be on time. I expect you to run this many programs. I expect you to communicate with parents this way. If you lay out all those expectations up front, okay, how they're going to talk to parents, how they're going to implement treatment, how they're going to communicate with you, your life is going to get a lot easier. The RBT's life is going to become a lot easier. It's going to be a much healthier relationship. So at the very beginning of supervision, just establish expectations. And then D, inform stakeholders of the new supervision. Not necessary. They don't need to know. Okay. You're on the case. The RBT's on the case. The only thing they need to know about your relationship. Okay. What you need to be doing is establishing expectations for that RBT as soon as your relationship begins. After taking baseline data on your client's cussing behavior, you implement a punishment procedure. 8 days later, the cussing has increased significantly. What do you say for certain? I love this question because it's kind of tricky. It's kind of a trick question. It's kind of an annoying question if you're studying, I'll be honest, right? Let's break it down. Okay, what can you say for certain? Well, what can you say for certain about what? About this behavior, okay? What did we do? We took baseline on cussing, and then we implement a punishment procedure. So what are you expecting? We're expecting the behavior to decrease, right? We're trying to punish it. However, 8 days later, the cussing has increased. Do we know why? What information do we have? The only information we have is we took baseline, we implemented a procedure, the cussing increased. What kind of design is this? AB, right? To demonstrate functional or experimental control, we have to do what? We have to reverse it. There is no reversal. We have a baseline, we have an intervention. There could be other things going on that cause cussing to increase elsewhere. Maybe the client's older brother thought it would be funny to mess with you and told his brother, I'll give you $10 if you cuss up a storm, right? All these extraneous variables, all these confounds mess with our procedures. So until you know for certain that your intervention is the variable affecting the behavior, Don't say that. But what can we say for certain? A, the punishment procedure actually reinforced cussing. Again, we have no idea. We haven't reversed it. All we know is we implemented punishment, it increased. All we know at this time. B, the punishment procedure worked as intended. Well, we're not sure, right? You still don't know. Okay. We can't say that for certain as of right now, because if the punishment procedure worked as intended, the behavior would have decreased and it didn't. Okay. So B is gone too. C, the cussing increased. We can say that for certain, right? Cussing has increased. We know that for a fact. And then D, the intervention was not implemented correctly. No idea, no information in the question supporting that. Remember, all your information is given to you. Okay. Don't assume. Just use what they give you. Only thing we know for absolute certain is that cussing increased. There's no reversal. There's no way to test a functional relation. There's no additional information. All we know is cussing has increased after punishment was implemented. What can you say for certain? Cussing increased. Susie attends school meetings for her client. She is part of the client's team, which includes the teacher, psychologist, and the parents. When Susie asks the teacher if she has any data, the teacher says they don't use data at the school. What should Susie do? Ethical question. Okay. The new ethical code is very, very big on collaboration. If you want to be a BCBA, you need to get used to collaborating and collaborating often. And collaborating sometimes means doing things or accepting things the way they are rather than how you think they should be. Okay. In this case, Susie attends school meetings for her client. She is part of the team, right? Teacher, psychologist, parents. When Susie asks the teacher if she has any data, teacher says they don't use data. Well, it's a big no-no for us, right? We use data for everything. We're data-driven. We use data to make all our decisions. But this school says they don't. Is Susie in the right to tell them what to do? Absolutely not. Susie's part of the team. It's not her classroom. It's not her school. What can Susie do? What should Susie do? A, refuse to work on the team until they start taking data. Well, who is Susie hurting here? It's hurting the client. Maybe the client is successful. We have no idea, right? We don't know anything about the client. Don't assume. All we know is the teacher says they don't use data. No reason for Susie to refuse to not do her own data on her client, right? So A is out. B, explain the importance of data to the teacher and criticize the model the school uses. We are pretty good up until criticize, okay? We shouldn't be criticizing this school. It's not our call. We can give suggestions if they ask as part of the team. But we're not criticizing anything. C, continue taking data despite the school's policy. This is what we need to be doing. Continue helping our client in the best way possible. Showing the teacher, hey, here's my data. This is what it looks like. Maybe leading them towards the path of using data. Who knows, right? But we need to continue supporting in any way we can, even if we're not agreeing with everything else the team members are doing. D, asked to come off the team. Susie can do that, but she shouldn't, right? All she should do is continue supporting the client in any way possible. So what should she do? Continue taking data despite the school's policy. Blaine engages in escape behavior when presented with vegetables on his plate. If Blaine went under the table once yesterday to escape from the vegetables, this would be considered a... Okay, another one where you have to think. Slow down and think. Slow, slow, slow. Okay, slow is fast. Fast is quick. Quick is how you pass. Okay, accuracy builds speed. I know I say that all the time. Questions like these, or when you get in trouble, going too fast and for not being accurate. What do we know? We know Blaine engages in escape behavior. Blaine went under the table once yesterday to escape. So this behavior happened once. So is this a behavior? No. Why not? What's a single instance? What's a single instance of behavior? A response. Okay. That's where it pays to be very slow and methodical. You might speed through this, pick behavior, move on. You're going to get it wrong. It's a single instance of this escape behavior. Okay. It's just a response. Tricky question. Not if you read it carefully, though. Finally, John starts a new job as an accountant. His boss tells him that the person before John left a manual with all the processes that John should read. When John opened the manual, he didn't understand anything in it. Manual was not. All right. These questions give people fits. Okay. They're very open ended. It always feels like more than one can apply. Okay. We have to go slow and we have to pick the most specific one. That's my advice. Mentions, attitudes, pick the most specific one, the most pointed one. Okay. Strongest one. What do we know? We know John started a new job as an accountant. His boss told him that there is a manual that John should read to learn. But when John opened the manual, he didn't understand anything in it. What can you think of? Well, I can think of treatment plans. If I give you a treatment plan to read and you open it and you can't understand anything in it, what have I failed to do? Was it not applied? Applied is just socially valid, right? Could be. Manual could be very good. Who knows? But John can't understand it. That's the problem. And why not? Well, is it conceptually systematic? Could be. It could be using all the proper accounting terms, the lingo, the ideas, the theories. Doesn't matter if John can't understand it. He can't. If John can't repeat the manual is not technological. Technological is repeatable. We write and design in a way that is technological for reasons like this. Okay. Somebody has to come in and do the job. They need to be able to repeat whatever the job requires. The manual is not generalizable. Maybe it is. John just can't understand it, right? And that's what I'm saying. You need the strongest one. Okay. First and foremost, John can't understand it. So we can't even say it's not generalizable or conceptually systematic. John just straight up can't understand it. It's just not technological. All right. Thanks for watching. We are going to finish up exam 3 in our next video. Looking forward to that. Then we'll move on to exam 4. Very excited for that. We also have a platform in the works. Be on the lookout for that. Like, subscribe, work hard, study hard. See you soon.